Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. Happy to see you here. In today's topic, um, I want to discuss something I've been observing for a while. I've touched base on it a little bit. I even made a video in the past where I just did nothing to a tank to with some bulletproof species of fish to drive the point home on this. Um, just to show you that it doesn't really matter what they're doing with these tanks. The fish they're putting in them, you could almost drop them in acid and they'll survive. Like they're using bulletproof species, and they're showing you their. So the concept I'm talking about is thirded tanks, and I even built one a short while ago, which I just ripped down because it. The water was yellow. It smelled like a swamp. My fish had red gills. Um, you know, it certainly didn't turn out to be what all the YouTube videos are saying. They talk a good game, and they're basically a bunch of people that's gotten caught up in some dogma. It's almost a cult at this point. I think it's intentionally that way, for some. One individual out there, you can tell just by going over his bio that he spent his entire life, trying to for lack of a better way of putting it, he's aspired to be a cult leader his entire life. Not like the bad kind of Charles Manson cult, but if you consider all forms of religion a cult, that's what I'm getting at. And so they find their followers, and finally, hats off to people like that if that's their ambitions, and that's where they want to be in life, and they finally got there through dirted tank dogma. Great. I mean, whatever it takes to self-actualize for you is fine by me. But I don't think it's doing the public, the fish, or the industry a service. What I mean, like bulletproof fish, you show me one of these dirted tanks that's had a discus living in it for a year. Show me one. Show me one of these dirted tanks with an active African cichlid population. I've looked high and low. I've seen people try to plop a discus into a dirted tank on one channel. It was one discus. Like, whoever buys one discus, first of all. So they didn't start with one. And the thing was sick. It was alive, but it was misshapen, and it was just, that fish is probably dead now. I saw that video like a year ago. It's got to be dead. Just from what I've learned of discus and the way that it looked then, the thing is dead. And when I care for animals, I understand that I have a responsibility to. See, there's nothing natural about sticking creatures in a glass box. And they'll use that word. Dirted, quote unquote, natural aquarium, right? Natural, dirted aquarium, And it's interesting because we live in a world that's using language in exclusionary ways like that. And what I mean by that is when you suggest that a dirted aquarium with, mud from a lake and all that stuff and all the natural, or the stuff from Mother Nature is in there. Like there's not stuff from Mother Nature in my tank right now because it's not dirted. You get where I'm coming from? So now it becomes an us and them thing. and it shouldn't be that way. I mean, if you want to run a muddy tank, then hats off to you. It's a free world, right? But and if you're getting kicks out of it, then perfect, right? But if you think you're doing your fish any favors, you're fooling yourself. You truly are, and it's because you've got caught up in the dogma, and 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 yeah, yeah. So to suggest that any fish tank is natural to begin with is ludicrous, and then to suggest that this tank is less natural than any other, like like or or a dirty tank is more natural than this one, ludicrous. It's nonsense. My tank is as natural as theirs is, and it's probably closer to being natural because it's fucking clean. Pardon my language, but it's clean. Okay, and in Mother Nature, you're not going to have a little box full of water that sat there for 3 weeks because you got a dirted tank and you don't think you have to clean it. I don't think people are examining what they're doing. They're just listening to a bunch of bull crap, and they're swallowing it hook, line, and sinker. And it's interesting, you know. We live in that kind of world now, where these it doesn't matter if it's politics or whatnot, even fish keeping. We've got this, you know, I have a new way. It's actually completely filthy, but I'm going to tell you that it's good for you and good for your fish. And if you treat your animals like your children, well, it's like you're letting your children swim in a freaking lagoon full of piss and shit and bacteria and microbes. And I don't know. I'll send my kids to a properly chlorinated pool. You know what I mean? Like, and yeah. If you can't drop an African cichlid in it, if you can't drop a discus in it, discus is a tall word. It's like that's a you really need to work on your water when you have these fish. But my point is, if it kills some of them, it's bad for all of them. That's it. That's it. And I'm not talking about, you know, dying because different fish have different pH requirements, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the filth, the water being yellow. You know, just because you got bulletproof fish, you put bulletproof fish in a fish bowl, and they'll do just as well as they are in your dirted tank. I mean, outside of a fish bowl, all this like stuff that's being taught about dirted tanks, okay, is the stuff that we learned when I was a little kid, like 40 something years ago, about how to set up a fish bowl. And now some guys turn around taking that old school knowledge and applied it to a fish tank, and all you young pups, all you young pups, you know, think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it's I don't know if it's amusing, frustrating, or both, because it's really caught on. And I think it's animal abuse, but that's just my opinion. You should be aiming for the cleanest, best environment when it comes to your water column and your entire tank that you can. I'm not talking about OxyClean. I'm talking about natural clean. The right kind of biology instead of the wrong kind of biology, keeping your cycle in balance. You know, the little things, they actually matter. But I don't know. I don't agree. I don't agree with this dirty tank stuff. I've played with it. I've seen what I need to see. I don't think there's a real way to do it wrong. It's just basically, you know, like let your tank turn into a swamp. That's about the easiest form of fish keeping out there. So you're looking for easy street. If you don't want to work, And, you know, I mean, why would you want something that even looks like that in your house? I've seen these videos. The glass looks like a swamp. Everything looks like a swamp. It can't smell nice when you got 30 of those in your house. It just can't. And the fish always look sick. I think they look sick. In my experience of fish keeping, when I see the fish in those tanks, I'm not seeing healthy fish. I'm not seeing healthy tanks. I'm not seeing healthy water. I'm not here to shame people. I'm here to point it out. I'm trying to point it out because I'm seeing something that's, I don't know, it's just, I think it's wide scale abuse. It's like mob mentality meets animal abuse. And that's my opinion. I will never run one of these dirt tanks. I will keep my tanks in the way that I've learned to keep tanks all my life, and my fish will be healthy, and I'm not gonna, you know, entry level fish, guppies and small tetras and bulletproof fish, and angelfish, none of that interests me. And I mean, you even go into the videos of these dirty tanks, and you know, in the beginning they'll throw in a bunch of blue neons. Well, blue neons don't last in the best of tanks terribly long. Like, you get maybe a year or two tops out of them. Most times they're dead in 6 months. But you go watch what happens to neons in one of these dirty tanks. I'm talking about the blue-green ones because they're genetically weak, and they drop like rocks. And as for black neons, they're largely wild-caught still, really strong genes, and they'll live in those tanks just fine. So my point is, you can't drop African cichlids in those things. You can't drop discus in those things. And I mean, well, you can drop anything you want, but how's it going to do long term? It's going to look disheveled and weak. That's what's going to happen, and then it's going to die. So if it'll do that to fish A, it's still harming your bulletproof tetras. It's still hurting them. It's still going to shorten their lives too. You're just not noticing it. And you know, for me, a big part of this hobby is the maintenance and the cleanliness, and I enjoy seeing the cleanliness and the results of it. So, and my tank is no less natural than any other out there, and I think it's more natural because in a large lake and a huge body of water, the cleanliness factor would be similar to my tank and not one of these dirty swamp tanks. Period. The only thing that'll live in them is swamp fish that you'll find living in swamps. You won't find river fish, and you won't find lake fish in the videos that show these quote-unquote dirted natural tanks, as if they're the only natural tanks out there. Language and dogma. Don't fall for it. Don't abuse your animals. Give them the best. It doesn't cost much to give them the best because I'm about as frugal as it gets. If I can do it, anyone else can do it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm speaking out against dirted tanks because I think it needs to be done. I think people need to re-examine the whole concept and take a good look at their fish. Water quality matters. And anything you can do to improve it, you should. Even if it's silly, like a UV. Nothing does more work than this little thing right here for keeping my water column nice. Without it, I would need meds. even as clean as I'm getting. So if you put in discus in a dirted tank, I'd like to see it. If someone's got a video with discus in a dirted tank, long-term sort of thing where they're video blogging their experience, I'd like to see those fish. I really would. Please leave me a link. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.